Okay, friends, I'm going to be speaking quietly tonight because they're shooting a movie out here and they asked me to be quiet. I was playing the piano, I was making all kinds of noise. I want to make sure that I don't wear out my welcome in my own house. I had a really interesting day today, and it was one of these, I had a situation arise that was, it was interesting. It was kind of perfect because it was like it related to one of these projects that I'm working on right now. I had to sort of insist on my value, and insisting on our value is always a thing. I feel like when it's a kind of thing that when we are, some people, and certainly people I've known and been around, it doesn't seem like they have any trouble insisting on their value. In fact, it seems like their value is like an assumption that's baked into their expectations and everyone else's expectations of them and how they will behave and how they are to be, valued and treated. So if we're having a circumstance where we have to insist upon our value, there's an interesting thing that's happening, because on one level it's like we're being asked to elevate, to rise to the level of our own value, and also to reckon our own value, to actually, because our value is always, our ultimate spiritual value is of course infinite and unlimited, but our value as far as how we should be compensated for work we're doing, or how we want to be treated in a relationship, all these different ways that value manifests are all relative. And so it's something that we engage with, and anytime we're insisting on our own value, or anytime we are requesting or demanding or defending our value, we are also engaging in a relationship. There's something inherently relational about that, because to whom are we insisting upon our value? From whom are we demanding our value, right? There's always an other there. There's always a relationship. And as we do, I'm kind of just like universalizing from what happened today for me, because I was talking to someone who's a dear friend, and someone who, I fully understood that I was making an ask, that what I was asking was not insignificant. And yet there was a sense in me of, I do kind of have to do this. I do kind of have to say that this is what I want, even if I know that it's not nothing to grant that. It's not easy. It's not inordinate, and I didn't make a sort of over the line demand, but it was not nothing for it to be granted. And that again sort of reiterates the lesson of, okay, it's easy enough to insist on your value when it seems like it's baked into the assumptions of how everyone works with us, how everyone treats us. It's different when it's not an assumption and we have to sort of say definitively, actually, here's where I would like to be. And I guess what showed up for me is I felt really confident about this conversation, because I actually had thought it through for a day or so, and I had kind of assessed not just what my value is. I honestly think that the value that I'm bringing to this circumstance is far more than can be paid. And there are other circumstances where I might perform a similar job and I would ask for vastly more compensation. But that doesn't mean that I'm undervaluing myself in this situation. It means that the situation is one that I'm willingly engaging in, and I'm sort of accepting the terms of that. And yet within that, I'm also sort of gauging. That's the kind of relationship part of it, right? If it was just relative to nothing, or if the relationship were always the same, then our value could be kind of ratcheted on an abacus. It would be numerically sort of always the same, but it's not always the same, because every relationship is different. Every circumstance is different. It's always happening in a sort of give and take set of circumstances. And I think more than anything, that's kind of my takeaway, and that's the portal that opened for me as I engaged in this conversation today, and sort of worked my way to what I felt was a very acceptable conclusion. The spark of inspiration that came through was, oh, this is all about relationships. This is all about, it's all relational value. And so, so that informs what it means. That informs everything about the circumstance, everything about what I'm doing here, and everything about how I'm going about it. And it means that we can, of course, demand our value or defend our value with love. We don't have to defend our value with aggression, or it's not about that at all. And I think, as somebody who's certainly had to learn some lessons in this department, that's a really nice feeling. It's a really nice feeling to kind of feel like, oh, I can do this in a way that is loving, even to the people, to and with the people among whom and from whom I'm sort of demanding something, asking something. So that was kind of cool. That was kind of fun to register that, and to really see that show up, see that emerge in my awareness as a with clarity. It seems to be the way it works. Anytime these circumstances arise, there's a development that takes place. There's a shift in understanding of what it's all about. And it's interesting. I've got 2 or 3 of those conversations going on right now, or more, of defining my value, declaring my value, insisting upon it, or at least articulating it, and then there's what will I accept, and it just is helpful. It feels good to realize this is a relational thing. It's not something that I can get right or wrong. It's not something that where the number is the definition of what the transaction is. It's actually something where the ebb and flow, the give and take of a relationship is the core of it all. And so how we define ourselves within that just becomes a matter of, articulating what we need. Probably over talking this, but it does feel, I think, because it was a moment today that required something of me, and then also sort of blessed me with this insight. I felt like it was worth kind of unpacking. So that's where I am today, folks. Thanks for watching. I enjoy this conversation immensely. Appreciate you. Have a wonderful day. See you soon.